I wonder what's on TV. I don't know.
Welcome. I've got something I'll share with you. What I want from you. And when you speak, I want every word to be straight from the lips of God.
Violence and natural death, human accomplishments. These are part of every news story.
We're here with Alessandra Dela Cruz. Alessandra, tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, where you went to college, and so forth.
I grew up in Albany, New York, upstate, and I went to college at FIT here in New York City and just graduated last July, so a year ago.
What was your family like? Was there any other artists in your family?
Actually, yeah, my mom is an artist, or was an artist. She went to art school for a semester, actually, and then came back and met my dad in Albany, New York, and they got married and they started a family, and he's a businessman, and she also has taken her artistry and her creative side into a professional business for herself as an interior designer. So she's gone both ways, with the creative way and having a business all at the same time. So I think I get a little bit of that from both my parents, the business side and the artist creative side. My dad can't draw a stick figure to save his life.
I read on your website that when you were in college you were studying something else at first and then switched. What happened that you made the switch?
Actually, I started in fine arts at FIT in 2004 for one semester, and then we had a semester where you could take all these different majors, and because they thought if you entered in fine arts you might not really know that that's what you want to do. You might not be an artist. It means maybe you're not sure. So they had us take this course of all little sample classes, and I went into communication design after fine arts, and then quickly realized 2 weeks later that I was not a technical or computer kind of person, and that the world of advertising was not for me, and I couldn't plug in anything or use Photoshop on a computer. So I quickly changed my mind and went back to fine arts. But that 2-week major switching decision cost me an entire year of trying to change my major back around. So I graduated 1 year later than I was supposed to, but for the best choice for sure.
Now, with abstract art, I always find that a little hard to discuss it. Mm-hmm. What kind of language do you use to discuss your art and what it is?
The language that I prefer to use is language that I understand, and if something makes me feel a certain way, or if I want to describe it a certain way because of the way that it feels to me or the way that I think somebody else might see it, that's the way I would use to describe it, between balance and tonal values and color and texture and what emotions are drawn or derived from that. And that's kind of the way that I used to talk about my art, something simple, to the point, and really if it's good or if it's bad, any way that it makes you feel is welcome.
Now, when I first saw your art, which was in photographs of it rather than the work itself, I first thought it was either metal or stone.
Right.
Now, is that an effect you are consciously trying to achieve?
Actually, not in particular, not an actual stone or metal kind of effect, but I do use different mediums and stuff like that that gives the surface or the textures different, I guess, different values and different textures like that. So if something is a little bit shinier because of a medium, then it might look like metal, or something's a little bit duller because I use burlap or something that's a little bit like spackle, then it might mean that it might look like stone. So I guess natural is something that I'm definitely striving for, but not maybe metal or stone in particular, but if that's the way it comes out to look. I like the crunch, and I like the shine, and I like different things that play off each other.
Now, when I look at your work, two words that come to mind for me are organic and sensual.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, do you agree with that? And if so, can you talk about?
Definitely, I definitely agree with that. My work, I do like to have that organic feel. I mean, the way I paint, I do a lot of mixing and a lot of pouring and a lot of, maybe not dripping, but a lot of different techniques other than just using a paintbrush, so that gives it the organic feel. That gives it something that's a little bit more natural, the way, you know, it's coming out of me, as opposed to just putting something, a piece of paper or something like that. And sensual, I definitely think, has to do with the pouring and the movement that I have in the work, especially with the different color values. It lends itself to sensual and natural and organic all at the same time. So that's something I like to play with too.
Now, one of the things I wanted to ask you about are your techniques, because obviously it's a lot more than just putting brush on a canvas.
Right.
Can you go into a little more detail about the different techniques you're using to get the textures?
Absolutely. I think mainly I use paintbrushes as mixing tools. You know, they used to have those tea glasses that you can get at the deli. Now they're in plastic. They used to be in glasses, which make for great drinking glasses as well, but they also make for excellent turpentine mixture glasses. So, you know, I'd pour some mineral spirits and Galkit or linseed oil and some kind of other mediums and all together, and then put in a little paint and use a paintbrush to mix it around, and then start to pour on the painting, which is typically on the floor, actually always on the floor. I paint around my paintings like in 360 degrees. So if one was on the floor, I'd be standing over it, pouring it, dripping it, tilting it, kind of moving it to get the right movement on the canvas or wood. Sometimes it happens to be too.
So are you using different types of palette knives, or what are the
Yeah, palette knives. Yeah, it's true. Palette knives. I use scissors. I use my hands a lot. Before, I wasn't using gloves, so I was, you know, really, I like to use my hands, but I realized a lot of health risk and hazard and danger there. So my boyfriend convinced me to start using gloves. So I said, okay, fine, I'll do it, which I'm really happy he did, because, you know, I'd probably have saved myself some skin damage. And usually a lot my hands and just pouring. I don't really use a lot of other tools, but definitely palette knives too sometimes.
And one thing with abstract art, I wonder, you know, what guides an artist sometimes. For instance, if you're painting a figurative painting, if you're painting a tree, once you start, you have kind of a form that leads you on. But once you have one color or one stroke on there, what's in your mind? What's guiding you to the next stroke? Is it something emotional or instinctive, or?
Yeah, a little bit of both, and also a little bit, I'm also looking at different types of colors that I'm using, and if I can see something in my mind, you know, different color value that I want to use, and I like to use complementary colors a lot too, and a lot of gray tones in those complementary colors. So I guess the next step is pretty much kind of a mystery, because I don't really sketch out a painting before I do it. I could think that I have an idea of a series. You know, I like to do series paintings, so I could think I would like to have an idea or a series based on trees, for example. And I would use charcoal or different mediums to go on and kind of start pouring and seeing where it takes me. And typically do layer by layer, you know, starting out with the mineral spirit layer first, so it's more of a wash, and then building up on top of that from lighter colors to darker colors, and then maybe some more lighter colors on top of that to get a really push and pull.
Now, you're pretty new to the art world here in New York. What is your take so far of the politics of it and sort of the social scene that you have to work in order to make your way?
I find myself to be pretty personable, and that helps, I think, in making contacts with people, is that I'm pretty friendly, and I'm really genuinely interested in knowing more about what they do and stuff like that, and then it just kind of goes from there. I think that trying to participate in politics, I would try not to do it. I try to put my work out there as much as I possibly can, and if somebody takes to it, that's great. If they don't, that's fine too. At least they had something to say to me about it, yes or no, and then just see how it goes from there with the contact.
Now, at your recent exhibition, there was one piece that seemed somewhat figurative.
Oh yeah, it was.
As I recall, it was maybe a fetus or a baby. Am I on the right track?
No, you're totally on the right track. It was called the Vagina Painting, and there's two poses. It's an 8x3 oil and canvas painting, and that was actually from a phase that I have that I call my narrative figurative phase, or figurative narrative phase. I don't know what you want to call it, but it was like an abstract figurative phase, and I'd like to tell a story and within that phase. And I was looking at a medical book, I think from the 1800s or 1700s, and they had these illustrations of babies being born with all sorts of different diseases or problems, and how they would remove the child from the mother, and all these interesting creepy poses, and I just was so drawn to it because it was just so graphic. And so I just started going at it with the painting with that, and that was something that I really enjoyed doing. I showed a woman with her, just like a chopped off torso, even like just from here to here, that just showed her legs spread open and a baby pretty much coming out of it. And then over in the other corner of the painting was a baby just coming straight out, it was like a zoom in, straight out of the vagina. So I called that the Vagina Painting for you.
Now, as we look forward with your work, do you see yourself evolving? And if so, do you have any sense of what directions you'll be going in?
Yeah, definitely. And as an artist so far, I can already see myself having different phases. And that was something I was really struggling with in the beginning, thinking like, do I have a style? Do I have an identity? Then when I found texture, because I was doing that figurative kind of abstract painting before that, and then I moved on, I found texture, and it changed my life. That was a big, big thing for me. And so I thought, oh, this is it. Like, this is what I'm going to do. This is my thing. And then recently I started a new painting series that rarely, it really doesn't involve that much texture. So it's interesting. I mean, I feel like I've done that, and it's something I can always come back to. But my next series is going to be a little bit more based on subtleties, subtle colors, subtle nuances in gray scale lines and things like that have to do with nature. So I'm excited about that next project.
Thank you, Alessandra. Now we're going to look at some of Alessandra's work.
Can't we agree that capitalism is an economic system, a system for the production and distribution of things we need and want?
You all know what sperm is? Here, maybe a diagram will help.
Don't, please.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. See what I mean?
And the Lord said to me, will you howl for me? I said, don't ask me to do that, Lord. He said, if I ask you, will you do it? He said, if I can't ask you to do something in your own house, how are you going to do it out there? So,
So you can see from what I have told you and shown you today that a moral decay is spreading through our country and our society. Oh God, deliver us, Americans, from evil.
In 2010, Caesar Pink published his first novel, The Murder of the Holly King. The Murder of the Holly King is the memoir of a subversive artist surviving in the rock and roll underground. The book weaves philosophy, cultural criticism, humor, and romance into an engaging motif of spiritual death and rebirth.
The overarching narrative is about a trip I took across country in the days and weeks right after 9/11. I was just sleeping in my car trying to see America. But after 9/11 hit, I was really seeing a very different America than I expected, and made it a very interesting, although sad, journey.
Pink's story includes tales of battles against corrupt police officers and a small-town sheriff, the struggles of his lower working-class upbringing, his work as an often controversial artist and activist, and the creation of his group, Caesar Pink and the Imperial Orgy.
For me, writing is very much a process of introspection and really a method of getting to learn about myself, and really the middle of the section of the book called Apologia really was trying to dismember my own ego in the Buddhist sense, and just pull it apart piece by piece, and to dissolve or destroy the ego, really. And that process really plays out in the narrative of the story.
Pink is brutally honest about his thoughts and experiences, often making his own bad behavior the brunt of his dark humor. Sometimes the stories are visceral and laden with emotion, sometimes filled with bitter cynicism, and other times romantic, passionate, and erotic.
The erotic parts of the book, I wrote about them just because they're a part of life. I mean, a lot of people don't like it, some people are offended by it, but I mean, sex and sexuality are so much a part of life. It can be transforming, it helps define our identity, and really it seems like our society is obsessed with sexuality in a way, but really what you see normally in the media is titillation.
Qu'il est murmurant, frémissant, me berce de sa belle histoire. Et malgré moi, je veux y croire. Parlez-moi d'amour, redites-moi des choses tendres.
Unintelligent Jeremy. So I should also mention that we've never done this before here, so who knows what will happen.
So I'm sitting here in this coffee shop, you know, the one there by Allen Street? The town is filled with thousands of middle-class college kids living off their parents' money. The coffee shop is where the ones come to play the part of sophisticated bohemians. The pretensions glow from their lineless faces as they sip cappuccinos and nibble strawberry scones. The boys to my right are discussing Nabokov with a serious air. A copy of Sartre's Cuba lies conspicuously on the table. The young woman on my left is declaring that she can never allow her creativity to be stifled by entering the workforce. The man with her scratches his goatee in agreement, occasionally suggesting they go back to his place to hear his new Washington Squares CD. Matt has just designed a new international symbol for peace. He moves from table to table trying to sell hand-painted t-shirts that bear the design. Tomorrow he's leaving for the 25th anniversary Woodstock concert, where he hopes to strike it rich with his creation. He asked me, "Do you think I should go to MTV with this or not?" I don't know if I want to corrupt myself with the MTV generation. The girl from the comic book shop is lecturing me on the evils of eating meat. With a plastic smile, she holds my arm as she concludes. And besides, cows are beautiful people. They sure taste good, I reply. Ornelia is playing head games with the philosophy instructor who's trying to get back in her bed. She says, "To look at him, you'd never think he has a down to his knees." Go for the skinny Indian boy feels inclined to sing me a verse of "It Ain't Me, Babe" when I ask him if he's a friend of Monica's. The singer of the local grunge band, Stir Fry, is explaining to anyone who will listen that he always wears his plaid shirt and tattered shorts on stage so people will know he's a real person, not some fake rock star type. Of course, he fails to mention that he never once in his life wore a plaid shirt before Pearl Jam hit the scene. Monica arrives, hugs Gofa, then introduces me to her new boyfriend, Billy. Although Billy's white as can be, he wears his hair in dreadlocks and prefers to be called by his new African name, Matume. Once Matume leaves, Monica whispers, "You know, if things don't work out with that band of yours, you ought to come out to Frisco with me. There's a really beautiful, loving community out there that's always eager to welcome new friends." I'd be there right now, except one of my housemates stole my wallet and credit card, so I had to call my dad to bring me back home. I sit among them, to all surface appearances one and the same. If they could only see that I would rather reach into their flesh and tear out their shallow little hearts than listen to another second of their prattle. With no job, no gigs, and my girl so far gone she might as well be in another planet, I've been leading the writer's quiet cafe life, spending my free time outdoors drinking iced teas and cheap wines. With a friendly facade, I chat amiably with whatever stalwart genius decides to squander away their hours in my vicinity. But behind my eyes is an unspoken challenge to any and every one of these socialites to just once say one thing that would inspire me, just one little idea which is new and meaningful, any emotion which would incite my animal passions to seek enlightenment. Unfortunately, original thoughts are nil here. Even a crude spark would enliven me, but they only deliver the failure of dull mediocrity. In my secret mind, I wish to run like a madman, banging gongs and speaking in tongues, or maybe jump on a table and shove a baklava stick up my ass as I sing the Star-Spangled Banner in the forgotten language of the Hottentots. I know these thoughts only reveal me as a fool because the spark I search for cannot be shocked into existence by Dadaistic acts of obscene performance art. Where it truly comes from is one of the mysteries which will always haunt me. But alas, the woman at my left has acceded to the temptation of the Washington Squares, and Matt has made a t-shirt sale to the scruffy girl in a tie-dye frock. And for all my wrath, all I get is a bitter taste in my mouth which all the Chablis in America won't wash away.